Hi, I'm Matt Bancroft.
And I'm John Savage.
And we're here at the Science and Industry Museum in Manchester looking through items that relate to factory records from the Tony Wilson archive.
This is a handbill for the Joy Division show at the new Osborne Club in Oldham Road. Tony and I had this obsession with traitors, with gay traitors. It was the time of the whole Anthony Blunt scandal and revealing that there'd been moles, Russian moles in the heart of MI5. And for some reason, probably because we were still adolescent, we thought this is pretty cool. And he had this thing about Kim Philby, and Burgess and Maclean, and also Vassall, who was an English spy, a gay English spy caught in the 60s. And in fact, the big poster that I did for this event has a picture of Vassall on it. But this was a big Joy Division homecoming show. It's got Joy Division, a certain ratio, section 25. You've got this sort of collage-y, punky, it's moving on from punk. This is sort of taken from a business magazine, and it's got various sort of
like World Bankers.
World Bankers. And then in the top you've got a gun which says price 195,000, and then you've got factory press release. It's a bit all over the place, to be honest, but again, it's an example of the stuff that Tony was just knocking off.
In August 1979, Factory and Zoo Records, who are based in Liverpool, decided to put on an event in Lee, which is the Lee Pop Festival, but has the title Zoo Meets Factory Halfway. And there's a really beautiful poster created for this event, which was done by Anthony Wilson, kind of in the style of Peter Saville.
Yes.
It's not actually a Peter Saville poster.
It's Fact 15.
Fact 15, yeah. And it's just all text. But this is the kind of a hand-drawn kind of precursor to the actual poster.
It's a rough draft.
Rough draft, yeah, getting all the information together. And actually, pretty much everything that's on the rough draft does end up on the poster. So even the kind of at the bottom of the poster, you have this great line where it says "use your wits" or "use the bus." It tells you what buses to get to Lee from Liverpool and from Manchester. And it's quite an amazing group, or collection of groups.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And you went to this gig?
I went to this. It was a complete disaster. It was a very cold day. The local police had decided this was, an invasion of heathens, and so
this was it was outside.
Outdoors.
It
was outside of Lee, in the middle of nowhere. The big stage set up. The police had decided that everybody was taking drugs, and searched everybody who came in the cars. I had somebody removed from my car because I had a little bit of weed on them. It was so cold that half the people drove around in front of the stage and sat in their cars watching the group.
So this is the front page of a synopsis for a film which was to star a certain ratio. It was given the number Fact 20, and its kind of working title was Too Young to Know, Too Wild to Care, dated July-August 1980. Was it by Liz Naylor? Did Liz Naylor do the script for this?
Well, the idea was that Liz Naylor would do the script, and I bullied Tony into giving her some money.
I read that story.
Because she didn't have much money at the time. And of course, she ran off with the money and never did it. What I like about this, quite apart from the fact it never got made, you've got a great picture of early ratio, and also they're in their rehearsal room, and you've got the Durutti posters. Yeah. Tony blew up that original Durutti image we talked about of the cowboys. Tony blew them up big size and had them on the wall of their rehearsal room. So I like that for that picture as well.
It's the story of four young men in love with beat music and baggy trousers.
Yeah, a ratio looked great in the early days. They got these really baggy 50s trousers from sort of jumble shops, and they looked like sort of refugees from the 1940s. And then they got into shorts and whistles.
slides off the thing.
As it slides off the thing. So this is another factory shareholders bulletin. This would have been done by Tony. It's on the factory records paper. And it's about the 3 factory nights at the Moonlight Club on April the 2nd, April the 3rd and April the 4th, 1980, with all the factory acts. So you've got the Royal Family and the Poor from Liverpool, who later made a record called full factory called Art on 45, which is really good. And you've also got Crawling Chaos, Section 25, Ted Mildred from Blurt, who were going to be on factory, Kevin Hewitt, A Certain Ratio again, John Dowie, etc., etc., etc. And in fact, on the last night, on April the 4th, Joy Division played this show, and that was a night where Ian Curtis had an epileptic fit on stage. So this is, and in fact was a very significant moment in his downfall. So this is actually a piece of history, and it's actually rather sad, because all this hope that existed then and all this optimism was a month away or a month and a half away from being halted in its tracks. This is a handbill that I did for Tony for a Durutti Column show at the Leicester Free Trade Hall in December 1980. It would have been Tony would say to me, John, we need a handbill. Fine, I'll do it. I'll have done it in 5 minutes. Found the basic image underneath, which is of a huge office building. Found these figures from a 1930s photographic book. This is how the history of art is taught in general schools. Found a column, put it in the L of Durutti Column, about £2, boom, boom, there you are, done in probably in 5 minutes. And that's the way it was. And it was great. It was very, I really enjoyed the fact, and Tony was very good like this. If he thought somebody had something to bring to the table, he'd say, John, do me a handbill quickly, or he'd say to Liz Naylor, you can write a script, or he'd say to Peter, you can design all this. He was very good. He's almost like an Andy Warhol figure in saying, right, you can do this, you can do that. And then you got your stuff. This was actually printed up into a huge poster. It's a moment in time. And part of Tony's sort of generosity and inclusiveness, you wanted to be part of all this.
This is a mock-up for a factory Christmas card. I'm not exactly sure of the year of this.
Well, it says another decade, another dollar, so it's probably 79. This was taken from a book about the British spies in the 50s that made a big splash in 1979, the Cambridge spies, that Tony and I were obsessed with because we'd both been to Cambridge, and these spies seem to be an example of how to have gone to that university and still be a badass, which again shows you how young we were. Anyway, this is an image, an actual wanted image of the 2 spies who fled, Donald MacLean and Guy Burgess. And it's just a continuation of that gay traitor aesthetic, which eventually gave its name to the downstairs bar in the Hacienda.
So this is another newsletter and shareholders analysis titled History Lesson from September 79, which is 2 pages. It goes up to fact 21 and is going back and talking about releases that have already come out and what they were. And I think the kind of key message from this is that they see all of these items and they are artifacts. They are important. They stand alone as a poster, as a record, as a badge, even to some extent as an idea or as a thought, some of which don't get to be realised.
Like Linda's.
Like Linda's FAC 8, egg timer.
Menstrual egg timer.
Menstrual egg timer. But the fact that Tony's going back and documenting this, I guess there's, I think there's probably a real element of pride in that as well, but also it's marking these items out as important, as historically important, as culturally important, even in quite a short time frame from when they actually are released.
What I find extraordinary about this is exactly what you say. This is September 79. It's only 3 months after Unknown Pleasures have been released, and already you've just got all of this. You've got a history. It's a history lesson, and this is within under a year of them releasing their first record.
Yeah.
In fact, it's 8 months since they released their first record. So things were moving very, very quickly. So this is another newsletter and shareholders analysis. It says it's number 2, January 1980. It says factory sample is going to be re-released in France. Well, it wasn't.
No.
And then it begins the chat with Fac 11, Exodus, English Black Boys, and mentions the Graveyard and the Ballroom, Great Certain Ratio cassette. The idea of releasing 8 tracks solely on cassette with a specially designed bag, that's so factory. John Dowie's single, It's Hard to Be an Egg, on egg-coloured vinyl. In other words, it's white with a
egg label and a feather, and a chicken feather.
So it's that attention to detail, that desire to communicate, that continuing since January 1980 now. Joy Division are actually at their peak. Everything's going forward really, really quickly.
This is a list of releases from Fact 30, which on here just states Sex Pistols cassette, which was called The Heyday, which was a kind of interview comp. Not a great listen, but it's a beautiful bit of packaging though again from Peter Saville. It comes in this really nice kind of black PVC sleeve. And this goes from Fact 30 through to Fact 55, which it just states as ACR album, which would have been Sextet, is that right? It would have then been Sextet, I think.
Yes.
Fact 51 is just The Club. So the other reason this is really nice is it's on the Factory Records onion skin paper. So the paper is part of what was the Fact 7 stationery set.
Yes. And also at the bottom you have the full complement of directors, which is Alan Erasmus, Rob Gretton, Martin Hannett, Peter Saville and Anthony Wilson. Well, all that would shortly change.
Yeah.